Yo guys, what's going on? My name is Ryan and welcome back to a brand new video on Hijomeatman News. Today, we're going to have a quick let's talk about the first round of the World Superbikes in Phillip Island in Australia. So we're going into this brand new season in 2018 with the new rules. If you didn't see the video that we uploaded a few months ago on the rules, then recommend you go check it out because I haven't actually got the document open with the rules in there. So you have to go down in the description. I'll leave a link top line of the description to that video and you can get up to date with the rules. But going into this weekend, obviously we had all the pre-season testing and it was looking a little bit interesting because we had Johnny Ray and Tom Sykes on the Kawasaki looking very fast. But then at Phillip Island, we had the Aprilias and also the Ducatis and maybe the Yamahas as well. So at the first test over Monday, Tuesday, I believe it was, on the race weekend, they were looking very fast indeed as well. So obviously we were kind of a little bit going into it a little bit open-minded, like anything can happen. It's Phillip Island. There's always a very interesting race there, and it was a very interesting race indeed. So the grid for race 1, obviously it's a bit of a reverse grid for race 2. I'll go through that in a moment, but the grid for race 1 was Tom Sykes on the Kawasaki racing team getting once again another pole position ahead of the first Aprilia and the only Aprilia, because the second Aprilia of Lorenzo Savadori unfortunately high-sided and broke his collarbone. So Eugene Lavati started from the middle of the front row, and then it was Ducatis and the fastest man in testing, Marco Melandri. Then we have Alex Lowe's in 4th position with Chaz Davies in 5th. And then the second Kawasaki, Johnny Ray, struggling this weekend. Obviously, he was a little bit sick. So I don't know if that might have hampered him a little bit. He was in 6th position with the Barney Racing team. And that is the first independent bike for this 2018 season on the grid, because they did add independent championship, very much like MotoGP has with the independent bikes. They have that now in World Superbikes. So he was in 7th ahead of the second of the Yamahas, the Patti Yamahas, Michael van der Mark, down in 8th position. And then the second independent bike of Toprak Araz Gatioglu, he's related to Kenan Sofoglu, and it was a great debut in the Super Bowl for the Turk. And then we have the 3 riders who didn't set a lap time. Savadori with the broken collarbone, Leon Camia had a crash, and Johnny Torres unfortunately didn't get a lap in either. So obviously it was all set to be an interesting race, but it was very much like MotoGP 2013 when we went to Australia, Phillip Island there. We had a bit of tyre problems because obviously everybody was expecting the tyres to be alright, but because the track was a lot colder than normal, the track temperature was only 31 degrees, so it was lot less grip, so the bikes were sliding around more and using up a lot more of the rear tyre, and that unfortunately hampered a few of the riders as we will move down the list throughout the race results. So obviously the lights went out and they went down to turn 1. Tom Sykes got the lead from pole position, started to break away, and there was all chaos going on in the mid-pack. They were really having a good scrap, and that just allowed Tom Sykes to get away. And then, unfortunately, the race got a little bit boring there from there on, because it was Sykes at the front, Ray in 2nd position, who got an absolute blistering start from the 2nd row. And then just sat behind him was Marco Melandri. Bit of a little scrap going on further back though between Lowe's and Van der Mark. They were having a good little battle. And then finally we got a bit of action at the front as Sykes was just starting to drop back a bit. You know, the tyre was starting to just get used a little bit more, and he was just kind of falling into the clutches of Ray and Melandri. Melandri then made a move into Honda hairpin on Ray, and Ray then made the Marco Melandri then made the move on Johnny Ray into Honda hairpin and got into P2 before then chasing down Tom Sykes and making the move on him for the lead of the race. Then Melandri on the Panigale just set away and pulled out the 1.1 second gap to then take the win. However, drama would happen for Johnny Ray, who was sat in 3rd position because he had a tyre problem. That tyre had completely destroyed itself, and he dropped down to 5th position on the last 2 laps and ended up finishing the race in P5. But talking of the tyre issues, it was a really strange one because, you know, people were kind of pointing and blaming like loads of different people. They were like, right, it's Pirelli's fault, you know, the tyres aren't in a good, you know, they're not they haven't got a good compound for this circuit. It's the same. A lot of the time it's the same. There's always a bit of worry with the tyres when you go to Phillip Island. Other people blaming the riders. They're riding too hard at the start. That's what happened with Sykes. He pushed too hard at the start and then just lost that performance, I think, at the end. And then people were just blaming everybody, really. The bike setup, they're blaming the teams, the mechanics, and then it was just a bit messy. But for race 2, they then decided to have a mandatory pit stop, but we'll move on to that in a minute. So Melandri got the win in race number 1. A great start for that one. The rules obviously helping them a little bit more. They also helped Tom Sykes because he's now got a lighter crankshaft, I believe, in his Kawasaki, which makes the bike just a lot more easier to ride for him. And then Chaz Davies was able to pick up that final podium spot with Johnny Ray's misfortune with the tyre. And then Xavi Flores was in 4th position, the first independent bike. Like I said, Johnny Ray was 5th. And then it was the first party Yamaha of Alex Lowe's in 6th position with Leon Camier on the Red Bull Honda. A good race for him in 7th position. Eugene Lavity in 8th. Michael van der Mark 9th, who also had tyre issues. Mercado ended up in 10th position. Loris Baz was in 11th. Jake Gagne was 12th. Then it was Toprak Razak Gatiloglu in 13th position for the 3rd independent bike. The second one being Leandro Mercado in 10th. And then it was Ramos, Hezek and Jacobson riding out the top 16. The guys who finished the race then for also on the independent bike. And then we have the not classified guys. We had Maxwell, Fousen and Herfoss were all Australian wildcards. They didn't make it to the end of the race. And then also Yoni Hernandez had a tyre problem. His tyre exploded on the exit of turn 2. And unfortunately his race was over. And then also Johnny Torres had a puncture, I believe. He had a flat tyre and had to retire from the race with 3 laps to go. So with that said, here is the grid for race number 2. Xavi Flores will start on pole position with Johnny Ray in 2nd place and Alex Lowe's in 3rd. And then it's Camier, Larity, van der Mark, Melandri, Sykes and Davies. That is the grid for race 2. So, yeah, I was expecting race 2 to be quite boring because Ray was on the front row. He looked a lot quicker in warm-up. He found something, and with the mandatory pit stop, everyone can push a lot harder and then pit on lap 10, 11 or 12. So I've just thought, I don't know, I just thought Johnny Ray could have maybe got away and really had a push. But that was not what happened at all because race 2 was incredible. It was just 11 or 10, 11 or 12 laps, depending on how many riders carried on. Just an absolute, just going as fast as you can. And for once, World Superbikes was entertaining to watch because everybody was going as fast as they can and just pushing as hard as they can. And they were all in a group. There was overtakes left, right and centre. And it was really, really good to watch. But we got obviously the pit stops, and I thought, right, okay, this is going to be interesting with all the pit stops. It was Ray, van der Mark and also Flores, I believe, who pit first on lap number 10. And then on lap number 11, I believe it was Chaz Davies, Sykes, Melandri, everybody else come in. And on the first lap of Davies being out on the circuit with the brand new tyre, he crashed, unfortunately. Eugene Lavity also crashed 2 laps in from the race. He was leading, 1.5 second gap, and crashed, which was a shame for him and the Milwaukee Aprilia team as well. But it was a really exciting race because leading up to the pit stops, everyone, like I said, were going as fast as they can. They were just barging their way through, just trying absolutely everything that they can to try and get to the front and break away, just so they had the gap before the pit stops and just have a bit of a easy end to the race. But that was not the case at all because everyone was fighting left, right and centre. But Tom Sykes, he had a few little issues. It took him a little bit longer than took him a little bit longer than obviously Melandri and also the 3rd place finisher in race 1, Chaz Davies. So obviously Tom Sykes having a little bit of a struggle because Melandri and Davies, who also started way back on the 3rd row with Sykes, they got to the front a little bit quicker than Sykes. So he was obviously struggling a little bit. and he just wasn't able to get into that leading, top 5 of the group. He was sat in 6th, 7th, 8th position, just fighting around there, and unfortunately just couldn't get up there. He did a 1:31.1, and what was his lap time in the first race? I believe it was actually a lot quicker than that. So if we take a look at the results, his lap time was a 1:30.9. So yeah, a little bit slower in that race, and he had 2 sets of fresh tyres to do the lap times of as well. So yeah, so it definitely wasn't right with Sykes' ZX-10R, and unfortunately just dropped down into that 7th, 8th position during the race. But like I said, race 2 was just really, really good. There was a lot of battles going on. And then Johnny Ray got to the front, and I thought, right, here we go. This is it now. He's gonna press on. Sykes has managed to get his way up into about 4th position. He was having a bit of a scrap with Alex Lowe's. Leon Camier as well on the Red Bull Honda. Really, really great work. And, he has a lot of stuff to test. He's actually testing at the moment, I believe, in Spain somewhere. And he's got a lot of parts to test. He had it in Phillip Island, but he didn't actually run it. So he's probably going to get even quicker if these parts, help him and the Red Bull Honda. He's going to get even quicker when they get to Thailand in a month's time. So obviously Ray was leading the way. Melandri was in 2nd place, just pushing on, and then they got to the final lap. If you see in the Instagram story on our Instagram, if you haven't, then go onto our Instagram. It won't be on there anymore. But if you do go onto Instagram, make sure you follow it at HMSGP Official. Also Twitter as well. All the links to that is down in the description. And you would have seen, if you did see it on the story, the final lap between Melandri and Ray, the final run to the line, because Melandri was in the slipstream of Ray. He pulled out and managed to grab the 2nd win of the season by just 21 thousandths of a second. Now that, I think, is the closest, finish in history for a very long time for World Superbikes. It's a very long time since we've had a race like that. I think it might have actually been Phillip Island when Hassan was on the Aprilia, was probably that close, or maybe even closer. Xavi Flores, though, he was in 3rd position on the independent Ducati, and well, it looks like he's definitely... He could be giving, the actual factory of Aruba IT Racing Ducatis a run for the money this season, because, he was very close to Davies in the first race. Could have easily got the podium, I think, but just, I don't know if it was tyres or something that just held him back a little bit to challenge. He was there, about 4 tenths behind him, but just not close enough to make the move. So he could have had a possible podium in race 1, picking up the podium in race 2 ahead of Tom Sykes on the Kawasaki. Alex Lowe's getting a really good result in 5th position. When we're going to move on to Yamaha and just overall in general in just a second. Leon Camier finished in 6th position with Michael van der Mark in 7th place. Johnny Torres in 8th. Floris Baz picking up a top 10 finish on his return to World Superbikes, with Toprak Razgatlioglu picking up another top 10. He was the 2nd in the independent race. And then it's Ramos in the 11th position, 3rd in the independents. Mercado 4th. 4th in the independent, 4th in the independent. There we go, get that right way round. Jake Gagne in 13th position, with PJ Jacobson in 14th, and then Eugene Laverty obviously crashing out and finishing 2 laps down in that race. Then we had obviously Ondrej Jezek as well. He crashed out of the race as well, as Chaz Davies like said. And then also Falzon got disqualified because he did what Marc Marquez did in MotoGP 2013 and went on for 13 laps instead of doing the 12 that you're allowed to do, and he unfortunately got disqualified from his home race. So we're going to take a look at, briefly, in race 2, the lap leaders. So this is interesting because we had Eugene Laverty led from lap 1 to lap 2. We had Chaz Davies then lead from lap 3 to lap 7. We had Xavi Flores lead from lap 8 to lap 9. We had Davies lead then once again for lap 10 to 10, so that took his total of leading laps up to 6. Then we had PJ Jacobson leading for 1 lap. Falzon led, obviously, because he didn't make a stop for 1 lap. Then Xavi Flores led for yet another 7 laps, I believe that was, from lap 13 to lap 19. Johnny Ray then led for 1 lap, and Marco Melandri led for 2 laps. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 riders who led a race in that. So that's 9 riders who led race 2. But if we take a look at the total number of leading laps from the whole weekend, I believe this is, because we've got Tom Sykes, 18 laps in the lead. Forres 9 laps in the lead, Davis 6 laps in the lead, Melandri 6 laps in the lead, Laverty 2 laps in the lead, Ray 1, Fowson 1, and Jacobson 1. And that's really interesting to see because you got Tom Sykes leading 18 laps over the weekend, whereas you got Johnny Ray, the reigning champion, 1. Just one single lap led over the weekend, and that is quite interesting to see. And hopefully for us World Superbike fans, it is good news because it doesn't look like Johnny Ray could have it all his own way. With Melandri doing the double and leading the championship, then it could be very, very interesting. So that was how the race results were for race 1 and race 2. But we're going to just quickly move on to the championship. We're going to talk about, Yamaha as well, to have a quick talk about them because everyone expected the rules to really help them, but didn't look like things were too easy for them throughout this weekend. So Marco Melandri, obviously with the double, 50 points on the board for him. Tom Sykes was in second place, 33 points on the board for him. Johnny Ray, who has finally lost the championship, he's had it from round 1 in 2015 right up until the final round in 2017 in Qatar, and now he's finally lost it in round 1 in 2018 to Marco Melandri. Xavi Forres is in 4th position, 29 points on the board for him. Alex Lowe's 21 points on the board for the Brit, and then it's Camia and Davies there in 6th and 7th, 19th. 19 points and 16 points for them two. Michael van der Mark, the second Yamaha, 16 points for him. Loris Baz inside the top 10 on his debut in the championship with 12 points in the board for him, with Mercado in 10th and then Eugene Laverty in 11th. Top Rat Razgat Tiloglu in 19th. Johnny Torres, he's Top Max in 12th with 9 points. Joint points actually with Eugene Laverty, so really good stuff for Top Rack. Johnny Torres is in 13th with 8 points. Roman Ramos 14th, 7 points. Jake Gagne's also got 7 points in the P15. And then Jacobson on his debut in World Superbikes, he's got 16th position with 2 points on the board. And then Andre Jezek, 1 single point for the Czech Republic rider. So Yamaha, everyone expected these new rules to really benefit Yamaha. They were the ones who were looking to take the biggest advantage in these brand new rules and really chuck an attack on the Ducatis and then also the Kawasaki's. And race 2, it did look like, they could, because they were both in the leading group. They were really pushing hard. The lap times that they were setting weren't exactly hanging round. They were very, very quick indeed. And it's just really great to see everyone back up front. However, Yamaha over the weekend was just very up and down. We had Alex Lowe's crash in practice and just wreck the bike and lose FP2 completely. And then Michael van der Mark with tyre problems in race 1. Race 2 had a little bit of issues here and there. And just wasn't really the weekend, I don't think, that Yamaha were wanting. And it was just a little bit of a shame, really, because I was really expecting and really looking forward just to see, these 3, maybe even 4, with the Aprilia, all battling it out for the lead of the race, fighting it out for the championship. But unfortunately, it just wasn't really the case. So hopefully, as we'll go on throughout the season, we'll be able to get, more teams and more riders fighting for the front. With Savadori, when he's back fully fit, he looked very quick this weekend at Phillip Island in practice. Top in practice as well, if you didn't see the Friday highlights that we uploaded. So it's all looking very interesting, to say the least. So we're going to move on very quickly to the World Supersport, because we had a few riders in there who was making their debut as well. So before we do that, we'll just go quickly read through the manufacturers' standings for World Superbikes. We have Ducati obviously on top with 50 points. Then it's Kawasaki with 40 points. Then we have Yamaha in 3rd place with 21 points. Honda in 4th position with 19 points. BMW in 5th with 12 points. And we have Aprilia in 6th position with 9 points. And then rounding out, we have MV Agusta with 8 points. So the World Supersport race started with Lucas Mahias, the reigning World Supersport champion, on pole position, and he went off to lead the Grand Prix. We have also a few debuts. We have Sandro Cortese, who lost his ride in Moto 2. He stepped into World Supersport with the Calio Racing Yamaha, and we also have a few more as well making their debut in the World Supersport class. And then we have a few riders changing as well, manufacturers, teams. So we'll go through that as well as we move on through the video. So The pole position, obviously, like I said, went to Frenchman Lucas Mahias. The homeboy as well, Anthony West, was on the front row. And it was looking quite set to be a very interesting and a very good race. However, unfortunately, for Mahias, it was good for us because Mahias kind of broke away. The race got red flagged halfway through, and then it was a 9-lap sprint. They did have to have the pit stop. So when the red flag came out, everyone just changed the tyres anyway. So we didn't get the pit stop aspect of the race, but we just got a red flag instead. So obviously Lucas Mahias went off. He won the Grand Prix. Randy Krummenacher, who makes his return to World Supersport after a dodgy season in World Superbike last year, he came home in second position with Sandro Cortese pinching the final podium spot on his debut with Kallio Racing ahead of fellow Yamaha rider Federico Caricasulo. Luke Stapleford on the Triumph getting a very, very good 11 points on the board in fifth position, with Rafael De Rosa on the MV Agusta making his debut with MV Agusta in sixth position. Jules Cluzel, who's on the Yamaha now, I said Honda in the Friday highlights, but I wasn't aware of that. He moved over to Yamaha, but he has done, so that was my bad. Kyle Smith in eighth position, another good run for the Brit, 8 points on the board. Ayrton Badavini in 7th points on the board in ninth position, with Thomas Gradinger on the Yamaha. He's in 6th. Nicky Tully in 11th. I was expecting as well Nicky Tully to really step up this year because he was on Kallio Racing last year. He's moved over to the Honda this year. Things just not looking as good as what it was last year. I don't think it's looking too good for him. Loris Cresson is in 12th position with 4 points on the board for him, with Kenan Sofuoglu, who is running inside the top 5 for the whole race. And then, unfortunately for him, in the last 2, 3, maybe 4 laps, he just dropped right back to P13, and I really don't quite know why. I mean, yeah, he had the big crash in qualifying and kind of ripped all the skin off his arm, and yeah, that would have been very painful, but I was really expecting him to really be up there. And you know, last year he had an injury which really held him back in the championship, and I'm just hoping that for his sake that this result, just getting 3 points compared to Mahias' 25, that it's not going to be, you know, the point that Keenan's already lost the championship before it's pretty much begun, sort of thing. So, yeah, really bad news for the Turk, down to 13th with 3 points on the board. He's ahead of Akubo with 2 points on the board, and I believe Akubo is actually the teammate. He is the teammate of Kenan Sofuoglu. And then we have top prices on the Cube Racing Kawasaki in 15th position, getting the final point. Then we have Siculus, DiMeglio, and then Calero in 18th position on his Orelac Racing Kawasaki. In terms of not classified, we have Lachlan Epis on the Team Go 11 Kawasaki. His teammate Canducci on the Team Go 11 Kawasaki didn't start the race because he crashed in the first part of the race. He was involved in an accident with Suma in the race days Honda. He unfortunately was involved in that crash as well. And then, like I said, Anthony West unfortunately breaking down on the first lap of the first part of the race before the red flag. Didn't make it out as well for the second one. Now, obviously as well, there might be a name that you are expecting on that list, and that is indeed Andrew Irwin. He is unfortunately not racing. He broke his hand in testing, or he broke something in testing, and unfortunately is not able to compete in this weekend's Grand Prix. Aidan Wagner was meant to replace Andy Irwin, but unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to. I'm not quite sure why he wasn't able to take part in the World Supersport race, but unfortunately he wasn't. So really sad news for the Australian that he couldn't ride in his home Grand Prix. So there we go. That is going to be it for today, because I just want to keep it short, snappy, get to the point, just talk about the race and the race results very briefly in World Supersport as well. But before we go, let's just take a look at the manufacturers' standings for World Supersport. We have Yamaha on top, 25 points, Triumph second with 11 points, MV Agusta with 10 points, Honda with 8, and Kawasaki with 3. So, yeah, I'm sorry that this video is a little bit shorter. I was originally planning to do this on Sunday, kind of lunchtime, afternoon, but unfortunately I've been really, really ill over that course of that day. So I just kind of was chilling in bed, just kind of having a nice relaxing breathe. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the camera as well, with this whole white patch. So yeah, there we go. That's it for today. Like I said, I was ill on Sunday, couldn't do it, so I'm having to record this on the Tuesday morning. I was going to record it last night, but then we had a power cut because the weather is not too dope. That's it for today. If you guys did enjoy this little video, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Till then, thank you for watching, and goodbye.